I think it's about to go live.
Okay. My screen tells me that it is live now. Does yours?
Good. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, good. Let's make a start. Good evening, everyone. For the benefit of any members of the public who might be watching, this is a meeting of the Tavistock Town Council Development Management and Licensing Committee. This committee has delegated authority from full council to consider and comment on planning and development matters in the town. I'll start the meeting with a roll call of voting members and asking you to indicate that you can hear me. And I'll take you in the order that I can see on my screen. Councillor Barry Smith.
I can hear you, Paul, and see you.
Thank you. Councillor Pete Squire.
I too can hear and see you.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs. Leslie Crawford.
Yes, I can hear and see you.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Lewis.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Councillor Graham Parker.
I can hear and see you, yes.
Deputy Mayor Councillor Andy Hutton.
Yes, I can see you in here. Can I just say that I've just been in a meeting with the mayor and I know she was coming straight on. So can you check she's not in the waiting room, please?
I've got the list up. I don't take the list down.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor James Ellis.
Yeah, we can finally hear and see you. Our internet connection is very, very unstable.
Yeah, you kept coming and going, so let's hope it settles down. And Councillor Tony Fay.
Right.
Good, excellent, thank you. So we're waiting for the Mayor and for Councillor Venning, but I think we should press on. And could I remind you to mute yourselves, except when you want to speak, so that we can limit background noise. And when you want to speak, if you wave at me, hopefully I'll spot you. And if I don't, somebody else will, and they'll tell me that you're waving. One way or another, we will see you. So we start the agenda with item 1, apologies for absence. I understand that we don't have any apologies for absence. Is that correct?
No, there are none.
Thank you. So item 2 is minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 22nd of October. That was a special meeting. Are you all happy that this is an accurate record of the proceedings? Yep. Okay.
Chairman,
yeah. Yes, Graham.
Yeah, not only accurate, but can I say how good the minutes are? They're a really, really fair summary of the discussion. I was really impressed with them.
Okay, well, all credit to Jan for that.
Definitely.
I would like to take the credit for it, but actually the town clerk had quite a lot of input.
Well, I'm sure it was a joint effort. For the benefit of the public, the special meeting of the committee was to consider the government white paper planning for the future and to put together any comments that the town council felt that we should be submitting as part of that consultation process. And the meeting was preceded by a presentation by Councillor Graham Parker briefing us on the key features of the white paper. And I was charged with writing a response to that, which I did. It was then commented on by the Mayor and by Councillor Ellis, there you are, and it has been submitted. It has gone off. And thank you, Graham, for making sure that the DALC submission had gone off as well.
It would have been very odd if our opening statement being we support the DALC submission and they hadn't done it.
Indeed.
But that went off as well.
Yeah, so hopefully it all hangs together. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. If you're aware of any declarations of interest to be made at this point, please do so. Councillor Squire, Pete?
Just to say, the last application, Mr. and Mrs. de Glanville have been known to me for over 40 years and are close neighbours, but I have no interest, particularly, or knowledge in that, but I just thought I ought to explain the closeness of our constituted relationship.
Okay, thank you. Any others? No? Then, as usual, if you become aware of anything as we go through the agenda, please let me know. Jan, the Mayor has just asked for the login details again. I just had an email pop up on the corner of my screen. I can respond to it from here if you wish, he says optimistically. In hand? Okay, so the next item then is item 4, Dartmoor National Park. No items have been received from the National Park. And then item 5, town planning issues. There's only one item, 5A, and this is a licensing application for Sovereign Wines, formerly Stevenson Wines. We have, rather at the 11th hour, circulated further details of this application, which some of you hopefully will have had a chance to look at. But essentially, this business is coming back into the retail market, having concentrated very much on catering, hotels, etc. And they wish to open I think they're calling it a bottle shop, within the current warehouse building. In practice, they already have a small one. So this would take in part of their office space to produce a slightly bigger retail area. And from my reading of the application, the purpose would be to be able to supply the retail market for off sales, but also to be able to hold wine tastings and educational events, during the course of which there would be the opportunity to buy wine by the glass. But that would be the only occasion on which wine would be consumed on the premises, as I understand it. The application includes details of their proposed opening hours, which are from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday to Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Thursday to Friday, and Sunday 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. No mention of Saturday. Okay. So, and if I just could remind you that if we do wish to make any comments about this application, we are confined to 4 specific areas that we would have to justify any comment against. So does anyone have anything to say about this application, please? Graham?
Yeah, the reason I asked for the details, and thank you for getting them for us, Jan, was that I'd heard the description on the email. You could easily miss the idea that they're introducing retail, and I'd heard that was what was going to happen. So I wanted to check that it was actually on the application, which it is. I know this is not a licensing issue, but I do think somehow the Sovereign needs to just be reminded that they need to obtain planning permission for this. I've checked back on the planning history and I can't find, well, Charles Stevenson applied for retailing in 2014 and withdrew the application. I can't find a record of retail permission. I have no objection to retailing here at all. I just think a little warning should be sent to the applicant. I know why Charles ceased retailing.
Yeah, so do I, yeah. So that would that be change of use, Graham?
It would be a change of use, yes.
Basically changing office space to retail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. if I could just welcome Madam Mayor, Councillor Anne Johnson. If you could just confirm that you can hear me, Anne, please.
Yes, I can. Mr. Chairman, my apologies for late arrival. I was trying to get in with the wrong password. Sorry.
Okay, and we understand that you had an immediately preceding meeting as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Lewis, for the red card. I don't think that's appropriate. Yes, I didn't finish my other meeting till gone 5.
Are there any other comments about this application? Pete?
Only to say I have no problem with the application, and I felt it was a reasonable development. That was all.
Okay, thank you. And Barry? Can't hear you, Barry, for some reason. No, you're silent. Is your microphone switched on?
I think your volume will be down.
Whilst we're waiting for Councillor Smith to get back to us, could I just ask our resident licensing expert whether there are any comments? Councillor Fay?
No, from what I can see, the Saturday is included on part 3.
Yeah, I've found it now, actually. Thank you.
Apart from that, it's just a typical variation of licence.
Oh. Okay, now we're not obliged to make any comments on this application if we don't wish to. I don't personally feel there are any problems under the 4 issues that are relevant here. And if it's your wish, I suggest that we don't submit a comment. Okay, agreed then. Thank you very much. Item 6, general correspondence, none received. Item 7, urgent business brought forward at the discretion of the chairman. I have nothing to bring forward to you this evening. Bringing us swiftly on to item 8A, decisions by West Devon Borough Council. Do any of you have any comments to make about any of the decisions? No? Okay, in which case we go straight into the new applications. Item 8B, the applications attached at Appendix B. Okay, so we start with 1 Coalmore Meadow. This is an application for tree work. They wish to fell an ash tree which is showing signs of ash dieback. Does anyone wish to make any comments? No?
Chair?
Anne?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a somewhere on the application it said they didn't feel they could replant another tree in its place. And I looked at the hedge, and there seems to be quite a lot of place on the hedge where some more trees could be planted. So I didn't feel that was a valid comment on that application.
Okay, Graham?
I was going to make a very similar comment to the mayor. That this is definitely one where I think we should ask for at least 1 replacement tree.
Okay. Shall we refer it to the tree specialist with the comment that we would wish to see at least 1 replacement tree? Okay. Okay, Jen? So the next one is 23 Chaucer Road, demolition of existing bungalow and replacement with a new one. And the new one would be built on passive house lines. So the aim would be that it was very ecological and self-sustaining. Do any members have any comments to make? Andy?
Yes, I have no problem with this one at all. It's just a rather strange one, really, because basically it's a bungalow in a state of bungalows, and they're going to knock it down and build a super duper environmentally one. So the whole thing is going to be costing an absolute fortune, but at the end of the day, they're going to have a very nice, environmentally very friendly bungalow. So yep. I'm happy to support it.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments? Graham, is that a comment or yeah?
Yeah, just to say, I welcome this one. I think sometimes retrofitting just isn't good enough, and looking through the specification here, I think it's going to be a real model. Is that going to be our first passive house?
I can't think of one in my time.
Well, I think we ought to. Well, I certainly welcome it.
Okay, so do I take it that we support this application? Good, thank you. Are you trying to say something, Leslie?
Yes, sorry, on my notes, I've just realised it. I just wondered, they've got water butts for water, but I just wondered if, to make it even more environmentally sound, whether there was any mileage for including grey waterways within the drainage system, the sewage system, whatever. I don't know if that's possible. I also noted the loss of the tree, which nobody seemed to make a lot of notice of, but actually it is quite a feature there when you look at the photographs. So yeah, I thought that was a bit of a shame. Sorry, I've only just realised that was on my notes.
Okay. I'm afraid I'm not in a position to comment on the grey water capture. I don't know whether anybody else is.
I'm just having
Are
a
you
look.
able to, Graham?
Yeah, Chair.
Yes, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, passive house ought to, as a matter of principle, include water recycling. So Leslie's right. I didn't notice it in the design and access statement, but if it is to be a registered passive house, it should include grey water recycling.
We could make a simple comment to that effect.
Yeah, I think it's worth.
Yeah,
definitely.
okay. Thanks.
Okay. So the next one, Phoenix House, Maudlins Park. Householder application for proposed erection of garage for domestic use. Does anybody want to say anything about this one? Anne?
Just to ask, really, what exactly is a garage for domestic use? Does that mean?
I suppose as opposed to commercial use.
Yeah. Actually, I think, and they're just belt and bracing it, because you see this garage has got a pit included in it.
Oh, right.
And you might be tempted to think they're going to try and run a business from it. And that's why I think that it's the right thing to do is to specify it in the description.
So it's a garage for garage purposes, for domestic garage purposes. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
I noticed that the next door neighbour put in a supportive comment.
Yeah.
Any problems, James?
No, I think we should support this. I was very pleased to see a pit in there. I think everyone should be able to maintain their cars at home. So it was good to see.
I don't think I've got the right computer. Okay, so do I take it that we're all happy to support this application? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so now we come on to a slightly more controversial one. 24 Borthays, application for variation of condition 1 of planning permission 1664-18 full. And condition 1 was that the property should be built according to the plans submitted, but now they want to change them. Just to remind members, this is an application for 2 houses, basically in a garden. Borthays is a steep hill. It's a very narrow road. When this application came forward originally, we opposed it. And we opposed it on the grounds that it represented overdevelopment, and we had concerns that there was insufficient parking. However, it's got planning permission, but it's come back with a redesign. What do you want to do, James?
Yeah, I move that we object to this, Mr. Chairman. As you say, planning was granted on the condition of they stuck to the original plans. I've read through all the objections, and I agree with absolutely every single one of them. And I sort of beggars belief that it's taken them 2.5 years to decide that they want to change the plans. I don't get it. So I feel we objected before. We need to object again. It's just not the right place for.
Now, presumably, if this application were refused, they'd default to the previous approval, wouldn't they? So we're probably not in a position where we can stop construction. Graham? You're muted.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. I have every sympathy with what James has just said. I think this, you were right in 2016. This was an appalling application. Overdevelopment doesn't even begin to describe it. But you're also right to say that the existing application is still alive. They've ticked the box that says they've started work. And if they've started work, then as we heard on the Plymouth Road application, that means that the application is live and forms the fallback position for them. So if they were to lose this revision on appeal, they would still build they could still build the original permission. So in many ways, the question before us is this an improvement on the original permission? Well, they seem to have moved the plot A to accommodate the telegraph pole and the BT box, but they've also, and I think this is an improvement, they've also reduced the height of plot A by a story. I mean, part of the overdevelopment was the ugliness of that original building. So I think they've gone some way to doing it. One thing I will say, just in passing, it's one of my hobby horses, as you know. This site and these buildings absolutely adjoin. They touch the World Heritage Site, and particularly where design is the justification for the application, I'm disappointed that there's no heritage assessment. This is one that absolutely screams out for one. But yeah, on the basis that it is an improvement on the original, I can't see any reason. I couldn't vote for an objection. I could vote for neutral because I felt like James, I find it really difficult to put my hand up and say that I like it.
Any other views? For what it's worth, when I read this through, my thinking, I have to say, was extremely similar to Graham's. And I wondered whether we might adopt a neutral position, but accompany that with a comment to the effect that we remain opposed to the construction of houses on this site, but acknowledge that this design is an improvement on the previous one. Some such comment. Yeah.
I'd second that, Chairman.
Yeah, okay. Okay, Jen. Right, next one, 56 Plymouth Road. Retrospective listed building consent for replacement of 3 windows at the rear of the property due to infestation with dry rot. And they've done pretty much a like-for-like replacement, hardwood box sash window, single glazed. Any comments? Everybody happy? I thought the before and after photographs looked very good, actually. You could really hardly tell that anything had changed. So we support that. Next one is 1 Downley, householder application for construction of 2-story extension. Does anyone have anything to say about this one? Graham?
Yeah, just my note here says no problem. It's a small extension with no discernible impact. So I'd be happy to support.
It's a big plot. It's not going to upset anybody else, I don't think. Tony Fay?
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment. It is a small extension. Unfortunately, it's a very ugly extension on a very, very ugly building, but they can't do anything about that.
I completely agree with you, but I wasn't going to say anything. Yeah, it's a very, very uninspiring 1960s sort of monolith, really, isn't it? But there we are. It is what it is. But yeah, so I think can we support this? We can, can't we? Yes. Okay, thank you. This is an interesting one. 35 Whitchurch Road. Householder application for improvements to pedestrian access and formation of a parking bay. Now, if you live in South East and you've done the leaflet drop for canvassing back a couple of years ago, you probably have climbed up this footpath that rises steeply from Whitchurch Road up to the house. And there is no footpath on that side of the road. There is no parking bay, no driveway. And what they wish to do is to carve out a lay-by style parking area. So it would be parallel to the road. And that would shorten the footpath going up to the house from the parking bay. They are currently worried that they have no visibility from their gate in either direction, uphill or downhill, and that exiting the gate is dangerous because of passing cars. I have to say I do have some sympathy with that, as my house is in exactly the same situation, but further along Whitchurch Road, a lot further along Whitchurch Road. So I'm not unsympathetic, but I do have some misgivings. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I was very similar. My notes I've written seems sensible, but they're getting rid of sort of grass and, you know, normal countryside. We're trying to not concrete over everything. But fundamentally, it seems a very sensible thing to do. So I think I have to support it.
Any other comments? James?
I have great sympathy with their parking issue, but I cannot support this. When you look at where it is on the road, they're essentially going to have a cutout, which is just going to create another blind spot for their car, for the traffic moving up that road. Some of their mitigating issues were, as pedestrians, they can see cars coming, and as cars that you can see pedestrians coming out. And I think that by putting a lay-by in, you're just going to make the problem worse. You've also got the issue of the car pulling out on that stretch of road. I think it's an accident waiting to happen. You know, I would support them taking a lot more out and putting a drive in and widening the gap so they can see down the road better. I would support a concave or convex mural, whatever the shape is, so they could see traffic coming to and from. But I personally cannot support this. I think it's dangerous and an accident waiting to happen.
Okay, thank you. Graham?
It's a good night for me and James. I completely agree with him. I think it is at the head of a T-junction. I think you know, it will be pulling out blind to vehicles coming away from Tavistock Town Centre. I really don't like the idea of replacing what is a fairly old and authentic stone wall with another bit of painted blockwork. And I do notice that unusually the Highway Authority have said they want to comment on this one. So I rather think that they have the same concerns that James and I have, and I'd happily support James on an objection on the basis of highways and pedestrian safety and visual impact.
Okay. Any other comments? Anne, were you indicating the wish to speak?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. Just to say that although there was a comment on the application and it said it was undecided, having read it, I don't think the person who wrote it would have said that they were really undecided. They asked a lot of questions. They obviously, in my view, they didn't seem to be very much in support of it. They have great concerns about it, and I think I would support James and Councillor Parker. I think it's perhaps not the right thing for the right place.
Leslie?
Sorry, I was undecided on this one. Can anyone explain to me exactly, because where it is, because when you look at the photos, there are photos here. The person that seems to be objecting says that it borders his house on Witton Park, and yet the road, if you can see the pictures, there's a road along Whitchurch Road which is on the opposite side of the road, and I can't quite get to grips with where this property is. If anyone's got the pictures in front of them, I would have thought if you were coming from the town centre, I can see that Witton Park is on the left.
Yep.
And there's a property that is indicated in the photo on the left. So I don't quite understand the bit on the other side of the road, unless it's just a display coming out and unlimited visibility.
Leslie,
so yeah, if someone can explain, thank you.
If you go to the photograph right at the bottom of the sheets,
yeah,
right, you've got the semi-detached straight ahead of you.
Yeah, with some steps.
The white, yeah, and that's the application site. The right hand one of those. The person who's objecting is the one to the right of that again. That's round the corner and slightly higher up on Witton Park.
Yeah.
So you can see both of them to the right of the telegraph pole.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
And that photograph is taken from the road opposite. So you're looking up the T junction. That's what you would see if you were driving up the road opposite, coming up the leg of the T.
Right. Well, that's not too bad. Right. Okay. I'm still confused, and I've really got nothing much to say. Thank you. Sorry. I just really wanted to clarify exactly where it is, because the one above that on the right hand side, which has got a downhill slope, it suggests to me that that's going down to like Mohans Park. It's not, but I can't
it's the other side of the road. It's on the left going out of Tavistock.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I've got that. So I don't understand why picked this photo, which has got a red car in the distance. It says Whitchurch Road. There's a silver car coming towards you, but there's a slope downwards. That can't be that side of the road.
It is.
That's what I'm saying. Witton Park goes up. It's quite steep.
Yes, it does. So it's just after Witton Park, literally just after. It's almost on the corner.
Yeah, I get
Witton
that.
Park and Whitchurch Road.
Yeah, don't worry. It's not critical, because I couldn't make up my mind at all about it, really. As I say, I ended up feeling quite confused. So yeah, thank you. I just wanted to try and explain it.
Paul,
thanks.
Just looking at that bottom photograph, Witton Park is to the right. So
okay,
if that bottom photograph, you can see the steps. Witton Park is just to the right off that photograph.
I'm just getting Google Maps up to look at it.
That's what I've just been checking on. So if you come up Cree Lake Park to the T junction, and the application site is straight ahead of you, and Witton Park is to your right.
Okay. I think I'm beginning to understand why you're. Ah, hang on. Are you sure that's right, Graham?
Yes. If you go into Street View and put yourself at the end of a Cree Lake Park, you get the view that's on the bottom photograph.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to have to go back to the original application. Just bear with me a moment. Right, so it's in site and other plans, site pictures, isn't it? So it's just opening up now. It's not opposite Cree Lake, it's opposite Mowens Park.
No.
Oh, I think it is.
Well, it's astonishing. There's an identical house then at the end of Cree Lake Park.
I think it's opposite Mowens, I'm sure. Mowens Close, not Mowens Park, Mowens Close.
That's,
which is the next one out from Cree Lake.
no, I beg to differ. It's opposite Cree Lake.
Well, if you look at the...
Jan?
Sorry, my friends live at 31. This one is 2 doors up. It is opposite Cree Lake.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Really?
Yes. I know the house because I know the people that live there.
Right, okay. Have a look again.
If you put it on Street View of Google Earth and zoom in, you can see the number 35 on the wooden.
Okay, right, I'm with you, I think. I'm just looking at the shape of the gardens of the adjacent houses. Yep, okay, I buy it, I'm with you.
Okay, and then that covers Councillor Crawford's point that the person with the objection is the house slightly, well, to the right and slightly above, wondering whose responsibility all these retaining walls and things are, because he's sat on top of these retaining walls.
Yep. So the objector's house is actually Witham Park, isn't it?
Yes.
It's on the Witham Park, Whitchurch Road corner.
That's it.
Okay. Cool. What did we do before all this technology?
We had to go on site visits.
Indeed. Okay. I don't think any of that changes the comments that have been made. I mean, I think our concerns are that we're worried about highway safety, given that lay-by style parking cutout. And we're concerned about, although it's not part of the conservation area, I don't think we are concerned about losing part of an old stone wall. So that's an issue. It is difficult because I'm not unsympathetic to their problem, but I don't like the solution. Okay, can I just ask, are we going to object, members?
I move that we object on the basis of highway and pedestrian safety and impact on local amenity by the removal of a stone wall.
Okay. Does anybody disagree? Then that's what we do.
Thank you.
I also suspect they'd have to reverse into it. It's not going to be very long, is it? The frontage of the house isn't very long. Anyway, we've decided. Moving on, Crossways, Churchill, Whitchurch, a long list of tree work. Any comments, Anne?
Well, it's a very long list of tree work, isn't it? I would certainly hope that the landscape officer would go around and have a good look at this site. I mean, I don't know if the plans committee ever does do a site visit for tree work, but it seems an awful lot of work that's happening, and I wonder why it's become necessary to do so much.
I haven't been up there for ages. I'm trying to think what it looks like. It's very rural there, isn't it? Graham?
Thank you, Chair. I think this is one of the most prominent sites in the Whitchurch Conservation Area. It's right on the crossroad by the post office. And if you're looking up towards the Whitchurch Inn, it's the site on the corner, which is basically, I mean, it's a 100, 200-year-old copse of trees with a small house nestled in it. Anne's right. I mean, there of 20 odd trees on this site, only 6 are to be untouched. From what I can see, 4 of them are to be removed altogether. 11 are going to be reduced in height and span. And the reasons are nothing to do with tree health and everything to do with light into the garden. Now, I mean, this is a house that is built effectively in a small forest. And I completely agree with the mayor here that that corner depends to a large extent on these trees, the character of that corner, and are specifically highlighted in the Whitchurch conservation area. So unusually, I would suggest that we actually object to this, to bring it to the attention of not just the tree officer, but the conservation officer, and object on the basis of the adverse impact on the conservation area, which is unjustified by arboricultural necessity. In other words, there's no tree reason for doing this. This is all about getting light in. Some of the works are obviously necessary. I did actually walk round this afternoon. The ash dieback, yeah, that tree's got to go. There is a dangerous branch overhanging the Whitchurch Road, which will come down. That needs to be looked at. But the rest, it looks to me like it's just too much, and the impact will be too much to be acceptable. So I would like personally to see the conservation officer there, as well as the tree officer.
They've already done quite a lot of tree work, I think, on that site as well, haven't they?
Yeah, when Alex Wish was the tree officer, Alex actually came up and talked them through what they could do and what they couldn't, and all of the works that have been done so far, as I understand, have been done with his blessing. Mostly, they were removing dead trees and stumps.
Yeah. Okay, members, what do you think? We've had a suggestion that we oppose this, pointing out its amenity value in a conservation area. James.
Thank you. I personally find it very hard to object to somebody that just wants to improve light into their house. They've obviously paid a lot of money for that house. Yes, they've got trees, and trees have got importance. But they're just trying to do right by themselves. I think a small forest is a bit of an over-exaggeration. Maybe a copse is a better word. But I personally couldn't object to this.
Okay, do we have any other views, please? Pete?
I support James's comment. I've not seen the particular site, but it does sound as though it's a reasonable attempt by a householder to improve the situation.
Graham?
In which case, I have to say, if you haven't seen the site, I cannot overstate the importance of these trees. These trees are a lot older than that house. I can't overstate the importance of these trees in that conservation area.
If any of you have access to Google Earth or any of the other satellite programs at the moment, you can bring it up. The property is on the corner of Churchill and Whitchurch Road, and you can see very clearly the house surrounded on all sides by trees. And the trees certainly do contribute a great deal to the character of that location, which is right in the heart of the conservation area. Andy?
When they bought the house, they obviously knew about the trees. They're there. They've not suddenly appeared.
No.
I think that is relevant.
Yeah.
James?
I mean, yeah, I agree with Councillor Hutton, but that can be an argument we can use with every single plan, can't we? You knew you had a 3-bedroom house. Why do you now want a 4? You know, you knew you had no parking. Now you want parking, and we can use that excuse. I mean, I know there's a lot of frustration throughout the town with people with tree planning orders where they're not allowed to cut them down. It's really affecting the gardens that they live in. They're really worried about the damage, potential damage to the property of their house, and it can really affect people's mental health having to live with that. Yes, they did buy that, but you know, people's ideas change. They're living with it every single day. For all we know, they're sat at home worried about a tree coming through their roof. You know, we're no experts on planning, but we're certainly very far from being experts on trees, which is why we always refer it to the tree officer. I agree it needs to be looked at by the tree officer, and I agree that, you know, maybe some of the reductions or removals shouldn't happen, but I don't think we should be objecting to this.
We could if members, sorry, go on, Graham.
Yeah, I was going to say that I've in months past, I've spoken with this applicant. I have given them the advice that I've just given to this committee, that this is in a conservation area. The trees are an important element of the conservation area, and they're aware of that. I have nothing but sympathy for the people who feel that they're hemmed in by trees. But I'll go back to the point. These trees are a lot older than that house, and these works do seem to me to be over the top. They will certainly change the character of this conservation area if all of these works go ahead. And you know, I did say, in my view, it's unusual, but I think we should object in order to bring it to the attention of the conservation officer as well as the tree officer. This is not something that needs to be just judged on for arboricultural reasons, but also for conservation reasons.
Leslie?
Yeah, I don't have enough knowledge to comment on this, really. I would suggest maybe that we refer it to the tree officer, but maybe the conservation officer at the same time, and that way that will be covered. Why do we have to object just to get it heard by the conservation officer? Can we not do that?
Go on, Graham, you're itching to say something. You're muted.
I mean, I live with these trees every day. I live 50 yards away from that junction, and I walk past them twice a day. I look at them every time I go to the post office. Everybody going to the post office will see them, look at them. They are an important part of the conservation area. That's all I can say. And I think we should, I take Leslie's point, but I do think we should say something stronger than just a neutral view in this place, because the works that are proposed are not necessitated for arboricultural reasons. I mean, all I can do is keep repeating that. So I'll stop there. But I would vote for an objection.
James?
I mean, I'd just like to make the comment that I should hope the conservation officer knows what's going on in his conservation area. So I'm sure they're
My fear there, James, is that firstly, this is the second conservation area in Tavistock, and I think it often can be overlooked. And secondly, unless this is flagged up as a conservation issue, it probably would go nowhere near the conservation officer. I think it would probably only go to the tree specialist. So I think the conservation elements could be overlooked. I mean, how would members feel if we were to do something like object pending assessment of the impact of the proposed tree works on the conservation, on the Whitchurch conservation area, assessed by both the tree specialist and the conservation officer? Could we put in some sort of, I think one of the things we've said is if we do object to things, sometimes it's helpful if we could indicate what would take away the objection. You see what I mean? What would satisfy the objection? Graham?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think I must be fairly dim this evening, but yeah, you're quite right. These are works that affect the character and appearance of a conservation area, and should be the subject of a heritage assessment as part of the application, irrespective of the fact that it's only tree works. The impact here is on the town's heritage.
Andy?
I quite like your suggestion, Chairman. I think that's sensible. So I would support what you say, that you're right along the lines of that we want the conservation people to be involved and know that we've got concerns, as well as the tree person.
I second that.
So if we put that to a vote, please show if you support that approach. Okay, so that's carried. Thank you very much. So let's try and help Jan with the wording. You're muted, Jan.
Do what I've written, and then
Yes,
you can
please
tell
do,
me
yeah.
if it covers
Yep.
what you want. Object pending assessment of impact of proposed tree works on Whitchurch Conservation Area. This application needs to be assessed by both the landscape officer and the conservation officer. It would appear a heritage assessment is also required.
I think that sounds fine. Is everyone happy with that? Okay, then that's how it is. Thank you. Okay, so we come to the last application, 113 Old Exeter Road, householder application for creation of an extra car park space next to an existing garage at road level. Any comments? Leslie?
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't feel keen on this at all. It's right on a bend in the road, if I'm right. It's not far short. There's not that much visibility. There are 2 parking spaces there. I don't know why. Well, I do know why somebody needs a parking space, but you know, there seemed to be adequate sort of parking in general, and it was taking down that wall as well. So I didn't feel happy about this one at all.
Okay, Tony?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I went out this afternoon. I know the property, it's not on a bend. I can agree with the fact they could require an extra parking space, but I don't agree with the removal of the wall. If you look at the pitch, the garage is set back with quite a large pavia front. So if you remove the wall between the front wall and the garage, you could, and level the ground, you could get a car in there. without changing the impact, because the wall itself is an old wall that then extends along to 2 more properties. And they could make a coin on the end and then just remove their wall and get a car in there, to my knowledge.
Okay, anybody else? No? Pete?
Although I know them, the application is not a surprise, and it does seem to be in more of the same. And it is, as Councillor Fay says, not on a bend. It's just past the bridge on the road of Old Exeter Road. So it's quite a logical development for their continued space.
So from what I can see at the moment, they've got one space at the moment which is parallel to the road. Is that correct? And then they want to have another space which is perpendicular to the road. Have I got that right?
Both spaces are perpendicular. I suspect they want a third space. You're looking at the captain of the English rugby team here, basically. So no doubt that there needs to be some extra room for vehicles.
I'm not sure that's a material planning consideration. Okay, Tony?
Yeah, if you go to the picture, which is the first document, you will see the double garage, which the doors are open, and there's 1 car parked in it at the moment. And then at the side is the area they want to, looking at it on the right-hand side, but it would be the removal of that wall, which is a small retaining wall, which is the bit I'm objecting to, because that wall continues to the next 2 properties. But because the pavia drive to the garage is quite large, they could come in on an angle if they remove the wall between the corner and their garage.
Okay, so they just took out that bit of wall that's actually on their property.
Yeah.
So you'd have 2 vehicles
in the garage,
effectively in the carport, if that, or garage, whatever that is,
yeah.
And then another one sort of across it. James?
Yeah, just I mean, I looked at this one, and I always go with sort of like my gut feeling, and when I look at it, I didn't have a view either way. So I'm very neutral on this. Yeah, I just looked at it and thought, you know, if that's what you want to do, then, you know, we need to criticise. I'm fairly neutral. I'm neutral all the way on this. Yeah.
We generally speaking, we don't like seeing old walls demolished. This isn't actually in the conservation area, but it is very close to the conservation area. Okay, we've got to find a resolution, a way around this one. Does anybody wish to object to this application? Tony?
I object to the removal of the wall, but I don't object to the creation of a parking space. Because I believe it's...
But they'd have to lose a bit of wall, wouldn't they?
The wall that's on their properties is different than the front wall.
Yeah, okay. So if I could just ask that question again, do any of you wish to object to this application? And if so, can you give some grounds? Do any of you wish to strongly support this application? Then I think the way forward is to go neutral, isn't it? Okay, if we go neutral, do we wish to make any comments to accompany that? Tony?
Yeah, the removal of the wall.
I think that's what I would feel as well, Chair. That I don't understand why they need it, but it's a minor works. But the removal of the wall is regrettable for no apparent real benefit. So I'd certainly support neutral, but as with Tony, regretting the loss of this section of wall. It's actually quite an important section of wall as you come up Old Exeter Road. It's in that section, you've got trees on the left, and then this piece of wall is actually an important part of the street scene, but not sufficient to warrant an outright objection in my mind.
Okay, so it looks as though, yes, sorry, Leslie.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's not on a tight bend. I mean, I wasn't suggesting that, but that road does veer off, because it's pretty well opposite where you come out when you walk to the viaduct walk, isn't it?
Yes.
And if you look at that picture, which's got, it's on double yellow lines, so there's no stopping there. So it doesn't quite make sense to allow an additional parking space when there's no other parking along that bit of road. And the reason that those double yellow lines will be because of limited visibility. That part of my complaint really is I would say there's limited visibility.
Well, the double yellow lines is presumably the reason they want another off-road parking space.
True.
Okay, I propose that we adopt a neutral position, but we express serious concern about the loss of an old stone wall, and concerns about, do we have significant concerns about highway safety? Where's our road expert, James? Do we have concerns about highway safety?
I personally don't know. No issue.
Graham?
Yeah, I think that, I don't know whether this is enough to warrant an objection on highway safety, but the wall to the right has no visibility splay, and we're just off that narrowed section, which is one-way priority, where the viaduct walk comes down. So you've got the narrow section of road with the pedestrians and cyclists coming to it and no visibility to the right. Having said that, that's exactly true of the existing position. And since this parking space would be further away from that road to that wall to the right, it would be improved visibility anyway. It's whichever way you look at this, you end up with on the one hand and on the other hand.
Yeah.
Councillor Squire wants to talk, Paul.
Oh, sorry, I've got half of you covered at the moment because I was looking at Google Earth. Yeah.
The other point I would like to raise is right opposite this particular application is a disabled parking bay, which I've spent a great deal of my time as a councillor fighting for its retention and enhancement, as it's frequently used for parking. I would hesitate to say by who, but frequently there have been non-disabled people parking there. And I've received complaints from members of the community who say it's resulted in a loss of parking. So no doubt this would be a process which I would see would support the avoidance of using that disabled bay inappropriately.
Oh, hang on. I'm trying to find that disabled. It's just a little bit further towards town, just before you go on.
It's
between the footpath and the viaduct.
Yes, between the footpath and the actual on the right.
Okay, yeah, I've got it.
You can just see the word. The word is almost obliterated.
Yeah, it's very faded, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's actually slightly
south.
Slightly south of the property, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I just looking at the way, just thinking about Leslie's concerns about highway safety, I was just looking at the way that road narrows quite significantly, doesn't it? As it goes underneath the
bridge. Single lane traffic.
Yeah. And in fact, directly opposite the driveway going to the site is a stop. Well, it's a give way, literally directly opposite. So it is a dodgy site. Is it any more dodgy if they put another parking space in there? Except obviously it means there's perhaps possibly a bit more vehicle movement.
Councillor Ellis is waving, Paul.
Yeah, James.
Yeah, I mean, I have no issues from a road safety view because it already exists. And actually, that road naturally lends itself to slow cars down. I don't know if anyone ever goes up there regularly, but I certainly use that as a regular rat run, and it's quite a slow moving road because you are aware of the cars that are parked, and that you might meet somebody in their Chelsea tractor flying along, so you take it quite slow down there. I don't think having the extra car is going to cause an issue with traffic. I mean, essentially, if they really wanted to, they could get 4 cars on there as it stands, and there would be nothing we could do about that anyway. So, this could be a 5th car or a 3rd car, however you look at it.
Okay. Well, what did we decide? That we would adopt a neutral position, but express concern about the loss of an old stone wall. And are we going to make any comment about highway? I'm not being crushed in the rush.
No, I mean, I think since we're raising concerns rather than objecting, then there's no harm in saying that we raise concern about highway safety, just to make sure it's double checked.
Okay.
As I say, I think that there are arguments on both sides.
Okay, so the proposal is that then that we adopt a neutral position, we express concerns about the loss of the old stone wall, and have some reservations about highway safety, but without making that too strong a point. Yeah. Tony.
Yeah, I've just thought then, looking at the picture again, there is 4 parking spaces available there anyway. And as they're a family unit, as long as they rotate the cars, it is already there. So maybe why any work should be done?
Well, I guess that's not a material planning consideration, is it? I mean, it's their reasons are their reasons. But I mean, I take your point. If you had 2 in the garage, you could have 2 on the driveway as well, couldn't you? But in a way, that's not what we're being asked to judge. Barry. I can't hear you, Barry. No, we can't hear you. You're not muted, but we still can't hear you. Okay, all right. Okay. Are you happy that we submit a response in the way that I suggested? Okay, then that's what we do. Thank you. Okay. All right, Jan. Okay, that brings us to the end of the meeting. See you all tomorrow evening at full council.
Good, right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
It's not bad, Graham, is it?
Bye.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good night, everybody.
Good night.